violation out of Delaware County, Ohio. In June of 2019, while representing himself, Mr. Urban won his appeal and his sentence was vacated in its entirety. He was then released with no court-imposed restrictions. Recognizing the need for effective advocacy and resources, Mr. Urban founded the LEAP Group, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting those who are incarcerated and helping youth in our communities succeed. Since its origin, Mr. Urban has helped 6 people obtain their freedom through effective advocacy efforts. Mr. Urban has also brought national attention to the case of Kenneth Adkins out of Georgia. Because of his advocacy efforts, Mr. Adkins is being released after being sentenced to 3 life sentences in a wrongful conviction. Additionally, Mr. Urban is the editor and founder of the Take Action Project, a national quarterly newsletter that focuses on wrongful convictions and trends in criminal justice system. In an effort to reduce the school-to-prison pipeline, the LEAP Group hosts an annual event called Education Over Incarceration, where backpacks and school supplies are distributed to at-risk and in-need youth. After the presentation, Mr. Urban will be available to sign copies of his book, Skate the Urban, A Threat to the Integrity of Justice. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Urban.
What's up, everybody? You? We can get a little more enthusiastic than that. How's everybody doing today? Come on. Come on. We are all here for good reasons, right? Yes. Okay, so let's be energized a little bit. There's a lot of good things going on here today in Columbus. So the theme of my understanding is wrongful convictions. That's the overall theme of this event, but that's sort of a narrow topic, right? It isolates everything to one thing, wrongful convictions. If it's okay with everybody for the purposes of my presentation, I'd like to open that up into somewhat of a broad spectrum and just kind of focus in on the word wrongful. Because by all means, from the legal standard, I really wasn't wrongfully convicted. I was legitimately convicted. But I had a wrongful prison sentence imposed upon me. So if we can focus on that, we can realize that by applying the word wrongful into the context of incarceration and legal fallacies, we'll be able to see that, yeah, wrongful convictions is a big thing. We're going to talk about that. But it also highlights other aspects and other factors, such as exceedingly imposed amounts of incarceration, which is something that I went through. It also gets into the realm of parolees and things of that nature. And that's not my thing. I know absolutely nothing about it. So for those of you that do, and I'm speaking wrong, speak up. Terry, I know you will. Okay, so the National Registry of Exonerations. Has anyone heard of that organization? Okay, so since 1989, 32 years, they have reported that a total of 23,590 years. I'm going to repeat that again. 23590. 23,590 years have been lost as a result of wrongful convictions. That's a lot. And that doesn't even take into consideration things before that. Now, if we look at the system of law, we can trace that back to Rome. So wrongful convictions have been going on for a very long time. But since 1989, once again, 23,590 years. That's a lot. So what consists of wrongful conviction? What are the makeups of that? And a lot of you here, I've seen a lot of signs, a lot of posters, there's loved ones incarcerated. That's what is bringing us here today. So you may have a loved one who has experienced things of this nature. So misidentification, flawed forensics, and false confessions, those all contribute to wrongful convictions. And that's a report directly out of the Midwest Innocence Project. Has anyone heard of that organization? All right, if I'm asking too many questions, go ahead and shake your head the other way, but it's like we're all on the same page here. So, as I mentioned, there's other factors, and one that I'm going to kind of focus on a little bit is the ineffective representation of counsel. So if we have a loved one who's incarcerated, we've been incarcerated, can I just see a show of hands so I can kind of get so the majority of everybody in here. Okay, so I was appointed a public defender when I was going through, hello. Hi. So when I was going through my thing, I had a public defender that was appointed to me. And the term of my violation, now I've been on probation for 2 years at this point, 2 out of 3 years, so 2/3 of the way through, doing very well. I decided it would be very good to very good for myself to take an unauthorized trip to Seattle. I don't need to ask my probation officer, he's irrelevant, right? What's he going to do? I mean, I've been good for 2 years, so he'll be nice to me, right? So I come back and he says, hey, what were you doing last week? I don't know. So a thing called Facebook tracking kind of pinpointed me to Seattle. So I was violated. I was returned to the county jail and I appeared in front of a judge, Roger B. Wilson. He was retired, visiting by assignment. The original judge out of Delaware County, David and Gorman, was not present that day, love to be told. So, Roger B. Wilson, this old school judge, decided in the best interest of the public, because flying out of state is so dangerous, right? Makes me a big threat to society. We're going to give you 6.5 years for that. I said, huh? I'm still thinking about it 3 years later. It still doesn't make sense. But there's one problematic issue when you look at my case, and that's section 292915 of the Ohio Revised Code. That section was readjusted in, I think, November of 2017, so November, December, 3 months before my violation. So it was adjudicated that it would be applicable in this standard. It placed limitations on violations of probation for low-level qualifying felonies, a felony of the 5th degree. I qualified for that. That's what my felony was. Places limitations of 90 days. 90 days confinement, F4 felony in the 4th degree, 180 days. So you're looking anywhere between 90 days to 3 months and 6 months is the max. The max. You cannot go over that legally, but you did. So, the court decided in all of its wisdom that since it had already been adjudicated, I was no longer qualifying for a public defender, right? I would no longer get the assistance of the county or the state or whatever government resource, it was no longer applicable to me. So I decided that the only way that I was going to have the opportunity of getting released is if I was going to stand up for myself a little bit. And that required me getting into things, learning new things, getting uncomfortable, getting denied time and time again, but it's okay because after months and months and nights and everybody was playing spades. I was over that. I still remember everybody. But anyway, I started studying the law. I started seeing what part of it was applicable to me. And I saw that and I said, that sounds like something that I'm going through. But is it going to work? And it goes back into that other spectrum. You're never going to know unless you try it. But one thing's for sure, if you have an opportunity and you don't try, it's absolutely not going to work. That's 100% guarantee. So I started litigating this instance through myself, through the original trial court, mind you not. And I was coming back with motion after motion, denied. But I'm establishing relevance. I cannot figure out why this is happening, what's going on, what's happening. So after a few months of this, I finally kicked it back to the clerk and I said, I need some help here, but I need to file this in an appeal and point me in the right direction. She does. The first motion submitted to the Court of Appeals, 5th District in Ohio, they favored that I establish good cause and there was good cause to proceed in the appeal. And that's what happened. So about 6 months into that, the Court of Appeals agreed on June 4th, 2019, that because this section, the one we highlighted earlier, 292915 of the Ohio Revised Code was never raised, then my sentence should be vacated. And it was. On July 10th, I was finally remanded and released with no court-imposed restrictions. That's good, right? Woo! Hold on. I appreciate it. But it wasn't good. Because 3 months prior to that, my grandmother had died unexpectedly. I should have never been in that situation to begin with. But now it's good after that point. Because you learn from these kind of situations that they do occur, but how do you recover from it? So if you're going to go home, you're going to be depressed, and you're going to do nothing, then you're really not using your platform as a means to help anybody out. Has anybody ever heard of Ricky Kidd? I know that there's a couple, but anybody other than a couple people here? So we're getting some other hands. Okay, cool. So last year, Ricky had the opportunity of coming to Ohio. I got to hang out with him along with the people in this room. And it's just amazing because he, is nowhere close to my school. He spent 23 years incarcerated. Wrongful. fully exonerated, but talking to him, you would never know. You would never even grasp that this man was in prison for almost a quarter of a century, just has the most amazing spirit, wants to help people out. And really that's what this is all about, right? Because we all have situations individually. I'm looking around, we all have individual situations. Many of you I've spoken to. Perhaps some of us may not even be involved directly with the criminal justice system, but if I've learned anything, it's that our voices are powerful and they can be used to influence, motivate, and inspire others for a change. Is anybody in here into philosophy? Anybody? 2 people? That's it? 3, 4? Okay. If you're not, it's okay. If you are, that's cool too. Anyway, there's a story from a long time ago. It involves Socrates, Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great approached Socrates with this question. He said, "How many is 1?" And Socrates, this great, world-renowned philosopher, needed some time to think about it. He wanted to contemplate it because he wanted to make sure that he gave a sustainable answer. He said, "Come back tomorrow, I'll have that answer for you." So when he did, he replied, "1 is a great many." So we may look at this, and we're going to get into this in a few moments, but we look at this system, right, this institutionalized system, criminal justice system, and we think this is an obstacle, right? And it is. Let's be honest about it. The criminal justice system is difficult. You're never going to understand it in its entirety, and that's okay. But we have to go back to what Socrates said, 1 is a great many. So we have to incorporate that into our own lives and realize that we have the power to make a change, even if it's just 1. But we also have the power and the opportunity to make a change on a larger scale. So how do we do that? So I want to talk about this for the rest of my time up here. It's